I know that it's 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning and it's still Christmas time, but I feel led by the Holy Spirit this morning to ask you all a kind of a heavy question. What sort of things do you think people are going to say about you at your wake? What sort of things would you like people to say about you at your wake? And are you living in such a way right now that people will be able to say those things about you at your wake? That was actually 3 heavy questions, sorry, but I really think they're important to ask ourselves and important to meditate on. I want to put this idea into your heads this morning. One of the most beautiful things that a person could say about you after you die is that you were a person of prayer. Whether it's in conversation at your wake or in the eulogy at your funeral, one of the greatest compliments a person could pay you after you die is to say that you were a man or a woman of prayer. And so I ask you this morning, are you living in such a way right now that people will be able to say about you after you die that you were a man or a woman of prayer? Our gospel today comes from Luke chapter 2, verses 36 to 40, and the main character of today's gospel is Anna the prophetess, who is depicted in that window right over there next to Simeon at the presentation. We're told that she's the daughter of Phanuel. She's 84 years old. She was widowed after just 7 years of marriage. And unlike Simeon, no promise is made to Anna that she'll see the baby Jesus before she dies. But she happens to be there when the baby Jesus is brought in and shown to Simeon. And so she gets to see with her eyes the Messiah she's been waiting for her whole life, and that the Jewish people have been waiting for centuries. And when she sees this baby Jesus, presumably not long before she dies, she gives thanks to God, and she talks to everybody she meets about the redemption of Jerusalem, which is about to happen in this child. Now, there's a lot of things we could reflect on when it comes to this character of Anna, but there's one thing I want to draw your attention to this morning, and it's this description of Anna. She never left the temple, but worshipped night and day with fasting and prayer. She worshipped night and day with fasting and prayer. 2,000 years after she lived, Anna the prophetess is remembered by all Christians as a woman of fasting and prayer. And I'm just asking you this morning, not 2,000 years after you die, but 3 days after you die, will you be remembered by the people who knew you best as a person of prayer? Now, we do not have to imitate Anna literally. We're not expected to spend all day and all night in the church praying. In fact, for most of us, that would not be God's will unless you have a special call. Maybe if you're a widow or a single person and you feel called to spend all day interceding, that's a special call. We're not all called to that, but we are all called to be contemplatives in the midst of the world, to live lives of intense prayer. So when you die, will the people who knew you remember that you carved out time every day for conversation with Christ? Will they remember that you went to Mass every Sunday and when you could during the week? Will they remember that you made time every day for the rosary and you had courage to invite other people, especially your family, to join in with you? Will your kids remember that when you were out running errands, you brought them into church to visit the Blessed Sacrament for 5 minutes, and that you weren't embarrassed to say grace before meals, even at restaurants, or to stop what you were doing at noon and say the Angelus? Will the person who sleeps in the bed next to you remember that every morning and every night you were faithful to your morning and evening prayers? Will this be how people remember you? As we come to the end of a calendar year and prepare to begin a new year, it's a very appropriate time to take a look at our lives and to make some resolutions about changes we might need to make in our lives. If you are a person of prayer and you're confident in that description of yourself, persevere and ask the Lord to help you to persevere in the new year. And if you're not, ask the Holy Spirit in these last 2 days that remain of 2020 what changes you have to make so that you can truly be a person of prayer. Once He answers your question, make the changes and stick to them. And someday, hopefully many years from now, when you die, people will be able to pay you the greatest compliment you can pay someone after they die. The same compliment we're still paying to Anna 2,000 years after her death. They will be able to say about you that you were a man or a woman of prayer.